when they can throw the football instead of just pounding it the whole time.
Yeah, so I'm in that game against Minnesota. Very impressive on the road.
Bad weather, too.
Yes, terrible weather.
We were there.
Awful.
Cold.
Yeah, exactly. It started hailing and everything.
Yeah. That's the kind of weather that both of these teams are built to play. And you've talked about this a little bit, Desmond. There's a lot of, the overused words in sportscasting, physicality on the lines of scrimmage.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where this game is going to be won or lost. And you think Oregon, some people think, okay, this is a team with all the uniform changes and they're a fast team and they want to throw the ball over the yard. But with Mario Cristobal, they are a very physical unit. They showed that in the Pac-12 championship game when they know they have to control the line of scrimmage. When you go up against a Wisconsin Badgers team, you know they have the big uglies up front and they want to get a ball to Jonathan Taylor and then control the clock. They're number one in the FBS in time of possession. So they love to play big boy football and give the ball to number 23. Pay attention to whoever controls the line of scrimmage because that's going to go a long way in determining who wins the Rose Bowl. Who wins the Rose Bowl?
Ugly?
Oh, we hear my man Keith Jackson used to call them the big uglies. You got to say that in the Rose Bowl.
Rude.
The big uglies.
Rude, Desmond.
I think he's right, though. Keith Jackson, broadcast booth right here in the Rose Bowl.
The big old hot mollies up front.
You just evokes tradition and history when you come here. Like if you harken back, I'm going to ask you guys a little trivia question here. Okay. I don't have $100. I would offer it, though. Do you know who the 1969 Rose Queen was?
Mario Cristobal's wife.
His wife in 1969?
Mother.
In-law.
So close. That's like 50.
Hey, you were in the realm.
Yeah, exactly.
In the ballpark. Look at that. That was pretty good.
Desmond paid attention.
Wife.
Except for he said his wife.
I was thinking mother.
Hey,
I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with marrying an older woman. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oregon and Wisconsin on New Year's Day. Badgers about a 3-point favorite in what has not been determined yet, but likely to be Jonathan Taylor's last game in a Wisconsin uniform. Justin Herbert certainly will finish his career at Oregon. A couple of the great stars of the last few years in college football. Countdown to kickoff here in the New Year's Six Capital One Orange Bowl, Florida and Virginia. Here come the Cavaliers. 9 wins for the first time since 2007. And, we talk a little bit about whether Bronco Mendenhall was going to be a fit, and I questioned that when he took the job. I'm not questioning his coaching. He's a brilliant coach, but, man, he has fit in beautifully with UVA. They get set to take on the Gators tonight. Steve Levy and Brian Greasy will be on the call. Levy?
Thanks very much. Greetings from South Florida as the Florida Gators get set to take on the Who's of Virginia. It's a top 25 showdown as we get you ready for the 86th Orange Bowl. Of course, Florida's been here before, and they have expectations, Grease, and what everybody's still talking about Joe Burrow and LSU. Florida wants everyone to know 2.5 months ago they were right there tied in the third quarter. And Florida's only other loss was against Georgia. I mean, they really have had an impressive season.
They should come in brimming with confidence. You mentioned they played LSU to the hilt. They were actually up 28-21 in that game. It was a late interception by Kyle Trask for Derek Stingley that sealed that victory for LSU. But back-to-back 10-win seasons for Dan Mullen. He has turned this program around. People forget, in 2017, this team was 4-7, and they were looking for answers. They brought home their former offensive coordinator who won the national championship, and he has done nothing but turn this offense around. And losing Felipe Franks early in the year, people thought they were dead.
Right.
And Kyle Trask comes in having never started a game in high school or college.
Amazing.
And he's had an unbelievable year. You got to give credit to Trask and to Dan Mullen.
People wonder about the motivation. Will Florida be fired up to take on a Virginia team that really hasn't been on this kind of stage? However, they got a taste in the ACC championship game. They played Clemson. They were fired up about that, and they lost by 45. Bronco Mendenhall said, oh, so that's what that looks like. But they've got Bryce Perkins. Now they have some experience. Another big stage here tonight.
Well, Bryce Perkins has had a historic year, and he has cemented his legacy in Virginia lore. But how nice would it be for him to get a win here in the Orange Bowl to seal it all off? 78% of the offense runs through him, but this Florida defense is nasty. They have only given up 23 points total in the last 3 games of the season. They're going to get back a healthy Jabara Zuniga, a healthy Jonathan Grenard. No C.J. Henderson, their All-American corner in this game, but they have plenty of firepower. And we know when Florida gets after the quarterback like they have this year, they win a lot of games.
Virginia's pretty good about getting to the quarterback as well. A couple of top 10 programs in that regard. So we should just be set to go. Should be a Fun time tonight. Did you think about not wearing an orange tie?
No,
with
you
the orange?
have the opportunity, right? Virginia, Florida, you got to take it.
Orange Bowl. Don't say anything bad about us as we send it back to you.
Never. Stylish, gentlemen. Here in the Rose Bowl and awaiting the start of the Capital One Orange Bowl in just a little bit. Now, as you look ahead to that game, I think Stephen Bryan touched on this a little bit, Desmond, and it's a question that you've had about. It's a good question. Florida's motivation last year, very excited about New Year's Six, played really well against Michigan, and then here they come again, and this time they've never lost in the Orange Bowl. I haven't been there since the Spurrier era, but what do you think? What do you expect to see in terms of mindset from the Gators?
You know, RD, I don't think they will be as excited as they were a year ago against Michigan, but I think anytime they can play within the state of Florida, this is huge for recruiting. They have friends and family at the game. I think they're going to be motivated to go out there and beat UVA. So I think they're going to be kind of motivated.
We know he'll be motivated. That dude, I tell you what, he put on a show. Just remember how the season started. You remember watching Florida versus Miami and what this offense looked like early in the season? Kyle Trask comes in and completely changed it. This looks like a Dan Mullen offense. Yeah, you watch him move around and throw the football, finish throws like he just did right there. He's done a great job this season, man.
I love that Mullen mantra to admire your throw. Admire your throw. And there's Van Jefferson, the transfer from Ole Miss. He's played a couple years for the Gators. Second on the team. He's been one of the favored targets for Kyle Trask in this offense. And most of you know the story of Trask, who didn't start in high school, played with De'Aaron King, who's at Houston and is getting his opportunities, played very well. And guys like Van Jefferson have been able to help. And I really thought Greasy hit on this. One of the things that's really hampered Florida all year is that this guy, Jabari Zuniga, very talented pass rusher. Todd McShay tells me third-round type guy. Hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he feels better now.
No, if he could have stayed healthy. We were talking about him preseason being the All-American type candidate. Grenard, remember the transfer from Louisville? He was an afterthought, so you had a dynamic duo that could have been. Now having Zuniga back healthy, time to recover, especially from an ankle sprain, that stuff tends to linger all season long. Yeah. Both these teams can get after the quarterback, and now having that guy healthy is a big difference.
And you know, with a guy like that, he wants to increase his draft stock.
Third round?
Too.
What you
Yes,
talking about
sir.
third round?
Yeah, he's like, what? Kuiper tripping? So he wants to go out there
That was McShay that
and put
time.
on the
That was
show.
McShay that time.
Kuiper, McShay, whatever.
They often work in unison.
Exactly.
There's some occasional disagreements between the two. Florida is going in against a Virginia team that really, certainly, I don't know if they exceeded expectations. They took the next step this year. Bronco Mendenhall, noted as a defensive guy. Bryce Perkins, a really elusive dual-threat quarterback, and one that you were on early last season for his potential to be a game-breaker type guy.
Well, I mean, he's a winner. He won a national championship in JUCO a couple years ago. Then you come in last year, you watch him. He's not a scrambling quarterback. He wants to throw the football and wants to make plays, but he can scramble. And you brought that element to this offense. In year two, this offense took it even more to the next level. He's had a great – if they can protect him, Des, that's been their biggest issue is keeping him upright.
That's the big if. Set a single-season record, too. 1,300 total yards and 4,013 total yards. But how about this man here, Joe Reed, too? He's going to be a guy. Keep an eye on him. He can be a factor in this offense, too.
You know what? You mentioned the protection and the sacks.
Yeah.
Think back to that Notre Dame game this season. Everybody except George Gipp
had
from the Irish sacked Bryce Perkins.
Caused fumbles, scored touchdowns. It was
And certainly Florida has that type of capability, if not more, in terms of explosive off the edge.
Top 10.
He's going to have to get the ball out of his hands. He's going to have to be sound. They're going to have to be sound in the running game to try to mitigate some of that pass rush.
Yeah, and his elusiveness helps that, and then his running ability helps that. But no, I mean, the line's got to help him out. I mean, they got to keep him upright because Florida's top 10 in sacks in the country. Mm-hmm. Virginia's one of the top 10 worst teams in the country protecting the quarterback. That's got to change. That's not good. No,
he leads the team in rushing too. Averaging just under 60 yards per game, so he's going to run the ball a lot tonight.
But a lot of times when you've had as much time off that these two teams have had, Florida a week longer than Virginia since the Cavaliers played in the ACC championship game, but a lot of things change in that little interim when everything shuts down and then picks back up. So we'll see how it unfolds in South Florida tonight between the Gators and the Cavaliers. When we come back to Pasadena, we'll take a peek ahead to 2 weeks from tonight. Tiger versus Tiger for the national title.
Go Tigers.
I think you're going to feel it. The possible #1 overall pick in the NFL draft this year against the possible, if not probable, #1 overall pick in the NFL draft next year. Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has never lost a game as a starting quarterback, and Joe Burrow looks like it would be impossible for him to lose one this year.
Why is Burrow not probable for this year?
I said possible.
He's the probable #1 pick.
There's a fella at Ohio State by the name of Young that might go #1. You never know.
You didn't see the Bengals game today. Welcome to the jungle.
Right.
Did it say Joe Burrow?
Oh, so the guy making the sign in the stands, he's making the draft picks? Is that how
I don't
that
know who
goes
makes
now?
the picks. It might want to pick his brain sometimes.
Okay, well, Joe Burrow, whether he's #1 or #2 pick, whatever he is, he's been brilliant this year for sure. Heisman Trophy winner. Last year's Clemson team would have been perfectly equipped to slow him down.
Yeah.
Defensive line's still good. They've got a lot of talent. It's not last year's. What can Clemson do defensively to get them off rhythm even just a little bit?
I don't know. I haven't. I haven't seen it yet this season. And usually by this point you've gone, all right, like I see it. Like Bama did this, Georgia did this. Yeah. Like you keep going down. He hadn't had a bad game yet. And I think one of the main things I would say if I'm building a game plan is, guys, when we rush the passer, it's not about sacks. And I know he's not Lamar Jackson and some of these big. He's not Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying,
New Trevor
you
Lawrence.
got to keep him in the pocket because he's so good at just dipping a little bit and then making that big play. So I think when you rush him with intelligence, which is hard because us defensive linemen, that's not why we're there, Des.
You got to study the film. No, you got to study the film and try to really confuse him with some of your pressures, some of your blitzes, and then make sure out of anything and everything that you do, your secondary got to stay with the wideouts because they are all so dangerous. When Joe Burrow breaks contain and he's in a scramble drill, their scramble rules are the best I've ever seen. Everyone's always on the same page. And now he has multiple weapons. Justin Jefferson just had a record-setting day in the bowl game, in the Peach Bowl. And then you got Jamar Chase. You got Thaddeus Moss. And then you got the Swiss Army knife, the one who barely played, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was actually the second most important person on the offense, not named Joe Burrow. So in my opinion, you got to be sound in everything you do. But when he breaks contain, that's when the secondary is really going to be on full alert.
You know, you look at this right now, and I don't know that there is a formula. Auburn held them to, 23 points, I think, but they still had 500 yards. What Auburn did is something that now they got some turnovers. They got an interception in the end zone. They did something that Clemson has been really, really good at the last few years, and you saw it in the Fiesta Bowl.
Made them kick field goals.
Red zone stops.
Absolutely.
Make them work down the field and try to get a red zone stop.
Yeah.
And that's
easier said than done.
No doubt. It 100% is. But why? I mean, why is that important, or why does that happen? Like the field shrinks. It makes it easy. Defensively, it's okay. Like nowadays, football basically, you kind of concede the 20-20, and you're like, all right, get spread. Everybody's got playmakers. I just don't want to give up big plays. He gets in the red zone, the field shrinks down so much. The crazy thing has just been like Joe Burrow needs a window like that big, and that's what he's been able to do. If you could take away the RPO game in the red zone, but I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire having more time now to get healthy.
Yeah.
Now that cures some of those L's. Throwing the ball to him in the flats cures some of those L's. It's going to be tough, but it's a good thing they got weapons. It's a good thing they can score. It's a good thing they can go tick for tack.
That's what Brent Venables did against one of the best offenses in the red zone in the Fiesta Bowl. Ohio State was one of the best offenses we've seen all year in the red zone. But then they got to the 4, they got to the 5, they got to the 16, and they traded field goals. They scored field goals as opposed to touchdowns. That was the biggest difference in that game. I think he's going to have to do the same thing against LSU, but this is a different monster. This is a different beast. They have better weapons. They have more weapons, and their quarterback. I'm looking at this game, right? I'm watching LSU play Oklahoma in the Peach Bowl, and I don't like to make like these grandiose statements, but I'm like, I really can't think of a team that I've seen perform at such a high level, execute at such a high level consistently like LSU's offense.
I agree.
Especially Burrow. I mean, I really haven't. It's so impressive.
Yeah, they haven't had a really bad game. I mean, they've had maybe a slow start, or something like that, or a couple of little things that happened, like in the Auburn game with the number.
2 in Alabama did last year until they faced Venables.
Well, that's true.
They looked really good all last year.
That's a great point. Maybe Venables will be able to do it. What does Dave Aranda have for Trevor Lawrence? 2 weeks from tonight, we will find out. National championship game presented by AT&T on ESPN. Of course, it'll be on all the platforms. You have Tiger versus Tiger. Only the winner gets to keep the mantra of Death Valley for their stadium.
What about the mascot?
That's something that I've said. Also, the loser has to change the mascot.
Right, you're no longer the Tigers.
Yeah.
Florida and Virginia counting down to kickoff in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Kyle tonight, probably some. But, man, I love watching Dan Mullen coach quarterbacks. I don't, maybe Joe Brady now is going to rip away that mantra of best play caller in college football. But I don't know that there's anybody better than Mullen taking away.
Best play caller? Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day.
I'll stand by what I said. Mullen,
I love when you
I
do
think
that.
Mullen does a great job. Whatever the weapons, he uses them beautifully. How have you seen Trask develop over the course of the year?
And whoever the quarterback. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean,
He's
Trask,
a great coach of quarterbacks.
He's an
by the way.
unbelievable coach of quarterbacks. And you watched him there. It was kind of cool to see him having fun and just using an analogy I think that everybody can relate to. Dan Mullen knows how to talk that language, talk the language of a kid and break it down and make it very simple. But you see Trask. This season started, you watched Felipe Franks get sacked 1,500 times in game 1 against Miami. Didn't get the ball out of his hands. Didn't spread around to the best part of the offense, your playmakers. That's the best part you have is the playmakers. Trask comes in, knows his answer, pushes the ball down the field, more accurate, tough in the pocket, wanting to throw the football consistently as opposed to Felipe wanting to scramble around and run more as opposed to keeping your eyes down.
I tell you what, when Felipe Franks got injured, we didn't know what was going to happen to the Gators offense. But when Kyle Trask came in, he had such a command of the offense. You can tell he was prepared. You got to give a young man that type of credit to step in the way he did and to play unexpectedly. He was prepared. And then I thought that the offense looked much better under Kyle Trask than it did Felipe Franks. And you look at Dan Mullen as a play caller. No matter who the quarterback is, he does an outstanding job of trying to tailor the plays to what that quarterback does well. I thought he did a great job in Death Valley when they played LSU, using Trask, using Emory Jones. He's just an outstanding. He has to be one of the top 4 play callers in all of college football.
I'll put him in there.
Top 4 is, I'm with you on top 4.
Yes, sir.
Top 4.
They put him at 1.
He may be the. He may
could
be
be
one.
one.
Yeah.
You could not give that. Oh,
Here's
kickers.
Corey Munson from 52.
Buying down the
I love
middle.
kickers. Big fan of kickers. Big fan. Look at that. I mean, goodness gracious.
23-20.
Perfect kick.
You love celebrating kickers. You should celebrate Corey Munson. That was a great
Great kick, Corey. Such a manly game finished by that kick.
Don't hate that. Okay, let's make some picks right now. Florida and Virginia about to get things cranked up in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Who wins the game and why?
I will take Florida. First of all, both these defenses are really good, and both of them get after the quarterback well. I just think offensive line for Florida, a little bit more balanced offensively.
I like Kyle Trask. I like that offense. I got Florida by at least 2 scores.
At least 2, okay.
At least 2 scores.